And Abram took Sarai, his wife, and Lot, his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and all the souls that they had gotten in Haran. And they went forth into the land of Canaan. And into the land of Canaan they came. And Abram passed through the land unto the place of Shechem, unto the plain of Moreh. And the Canaanite was then in the land. And Yahweh appeared unto Abram and said, unto thy seed will I give this land. And there builded he an altar unto Yahweh, who appeared unto him. Now I want you to understand. First, we understand that the Bible does tell us that Noah placed a curse on his grandson. He said, curses be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be. So Canaan was a curse. And then the Most High told Abraham, I'm going to give you the land that belonged to Canaan. Now, of all the lands he gave, he chose this particular one. And then later on, we would understand from the book of the law in Deuteronomy that he told his chosen people, my eyes are always on this land. All year long, my eyes are on this land. And then later on, we understand from the New Jerusalem coming down from Yahweh out of heaven, it's going to set on that land, and within that city, we understand from the throne of Yahweh, it will be a river of life flowing from that city, from the throne. We also understand that in that city also will be the tree of life, which bear 12 manner of fruits. Y'all understand all that, and it will be on that land. Why is that important? Because the only other time you have seen a river flowing from a place with the tree of life was called what? The Garden of Eden. That's the only other time you saw that on the earth. Okay? So the Most High apparently understands this was the place that he had originally chosen. It's the place that he originally had with the tree of life, and he's going to place the city there with his chosen people in that same place that was the Garden of Eden. The same place. People say, but we thought the Garden of Eden, and we thought all things started in Africa. It did. That place ain't no Middle East. That place ain't no such thing. The Bible never mentions no such thing as a Middle East. That's a man-made construct. That's no Middle East. That's part of the same land of Africa. It's the same land. It's the same land. There's no Middle East. Ain't no such thing as Middle East. Just like there's no Middle North, Middle South, or Middle West. That's a man-made construct by the sons of Japhet. They made that up to try to get us off of it, to try to get us out of history. Just like the Bible said, they try to hide, they try to do away with your hidden ones. They try to take over. Middle East, please. That's Israelite. And I don't even want to say African because that's a man-made construct. The Bible says Cush and Mizraim. That's that land. That's Mizraim and Cush's land right there. That's the land of people that are dark, brothers and sisters. That people that are dark. Much they tried to replace it. That's all good. Let them play their game, because that's all it is a game, brothers and sisters. A game of deception. Just like a 3-card Monty. It's a game of deception. And the Most High getting ready to turn that table over with their cards and their money and all their foolishness. He getting ready to turn the whole thing upside down. He not paying no attention to their foolishness. All he cares about right now is the seal at 144,000, because with them, he getting ready to bring the noise. With them, getting ready to bring the noise. And so, the preparation is underway. But here, in Genesis chapter 12, we see that he promised Abram at age 75 that he would make him a great nation. That he would make him a great nation. And then he said, I'm going to give this land unto your seed. Now, brothers and sisters, let us not forget now, when Abraham was told this information, right? This information was given to Abraham. This information was given him. Well, now he has an understanding that from his loins, from his body, is going to be a generation of people, a nation that come from his body. Not just by faith, but through his actual loins, his DNA, his bloodline. Notice again, Genesis chapter 15. Genesis chapter 15. Genesis 15, again, let's read from verse 1 to verse 7. Genesis 15, 1 to 7. This is about 10 years later. Here we are, Genesis. He left at age 75. Now he's about 85 years old in Genesis 15. He's about 85 years old because the next year he would have Yishmael or Yishmaelah. He would have him the next year when he was 86 years old. He would have him with this black woman from Mizraim, this black woman from the children of Ham, this black woman named Hagar. From the children of Ham. You know, brothers and sisters, like, I want to just break this down to you before we read from Genesis 15, Isha. Just a minute now. Now, I want to break this down for a second. Y'all know that when two people are too closely related, they can't have children. They have trouble having children. Like, if a brother and sister were to really have sex, it's hard for them to have children because those seeds are not supposed to be mingled. Y'all understand that? I mean, really, I'm just saying. Y'all heard that, right? So when two people are too closely related, they have trouble having children because they're too close related. Well, you know that Abraham and Sarai were actually brother and sister. They were brother and sister. They had the same father. They just had different mothers. And so they could not have any children. The woman was barren. And now, you know, as we go through time, we have seen that before. I mean, unfortunately, on this earth, we have seen brothers and sisters try to have sex, or people too close as far as cousin or uncle, aunt try to have sex and can't have children. Why can't they have children? Because they're too closely related. It's really a rare thing. Like Lot's daughters with him is very a rare thing. Very rare thing. And as we know from Leviticus, once the nation was established, the Most High said, no, don't do that anymore. Don't have sex with people that are too closely related to you. So Abraham and Sarai could not have children. So now maybe they understood that, because now Sarai goes and says, go into Hagar. We can't have no children. Go into Hagar. So he takes this woman from Ham, one of Ham's children, from Mizraim. And he has a child. But here in chapter 15, that hadn't happened yet. So it was the year before, okay? It was the year before. So let's take a look at this. Genesis chapter 15 from verse 1 down to verse 7. Genesis 15, 1 to 7. Notice what it says. After these things, the word of Yahweh came unto Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram. I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. And Abram said, Most high Yahweh, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is this Eleazar of Damascus? And Abram said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is my heir. And behold, the word of Yahweh came unto him, saying, This shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. And he brought him forth abroad and said, Look now toward heaven, and tell the number of the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be. And he believed in Yahweh, and he counted it to him for righteousness. And he said unto him, I am Yahweh that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees to give thee this land to inherit it. Okay. So he makes it very specific. He's telling Abraham, no, it's not going to be a man, Eleazar, who's been faithful to you, your faithful servant. It's not going to be your faithful servant. I'm going to give you this land from a child that's coming from your DNA, from your loins, from your seed. Your semen is going to make this child. See? So I want to make that clear for all of these Christians talking this belief that they replacing Israel. That's why I'm bringing. You can't replace the seed. You either are the seed or you not. Now, we're going to see you can be saved. No, yeah. But don't think you're replacing the seed. That would be disrespect to these words right here. That would be disrespect to what the Most High told Abraham. He didn't say, I'm going to give you a spiritual seed. He said, from your bowels. Very plain. From your bowels. Let me tell you something. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you all. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? When the Most High gives a promise and he gives a word, how long does that last? How long does that last? When he gives a word, how long is that word good for? Is it just good for a certain time and then it fades away? When he gives a promise, right? We already read it. Ecclesiastes said, what Yah doeth, it shall be forever. Nothing can be added to it and nothing can be taken away from it. So I don't want to hear nobody. When somebody come to you and talk about, well, the Christians have replaced, the Caucasians from the north have replaced the Israelite seed. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No. I'm not saying y'all can't be saved. Y'all better act right if you want to be saved now. But don't try to say you replacing the seed. That's not. From your own bowels. And then he brought them forth. Said, look at the stars. Abraham's out there in the desert. See, people say Abraham was rich. Yeah, he had a lot of cattle. He had a lot of goats and a lot of lambs. Yes, he did. That was considered rich. And he had gold and silver too. It wasn't like he was going to spend it on no Mercedes or anything. He was living in tents in the desert. That's for all them preachers out there preaching that prosperity gospel. Abraham was rich and the Most High wants all of us to be rich. Come on now. Stop. Y'all that want the truth, man, you need to leave them Negroes alone. There's no way that dead presidents on pieces of paper are going to make you rich. There is just no way that dead presidents on pieces of paper are going to make you rich. It's not going to happen. That's right. He out there in the desert riding a camel. Riding camels in the desert and staying in tents. So his gold and his silver wasn't going to do much for him out there. So the Most High brings him out and he looks into the sky. He says, so shall thy seed be. And Abraham trusted. He put his trust, he put his trust in the righteousness of Yahweh. He's 85 years old. His wife now 75 years old. And I'm trusting that. I'm believing that. And he said, okay, because of that, I'm going to give you not only the land, here, I'm going to give you this even more powerful gift. And it was imputed to him for righteousness. I'm going to put my spirit of righteousness upon you. I've entered into covenant with you, son. Now you and me are one. And that's what he does for all of us who are Abraham's seed. When you trust in the Father's righteousness, you obey the Father. After you receive that right, you trust in him, you obey him, and you now are an agent of blessing. You are an agent. Anybody that hires you is going to be blessed. Anybody that associates with you is going to be blessed, not because of you, because of the spirit of righteousness that the Father placed on you. That's why he told Abraham, in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. And so, as the nation of Abraham's seed goes, so goes the earth. When Abraham's seed's in their proper position, the earth will get righteousness and truth. When they're not in their proper position, the earth will get darkness and falsehood. Which is why you can see what's happening now. Darkness and falsehood. And it was counted to him for righteousness. Now, Abraham believed the Most High, but he's in the spirit with the Most High, and he wants a sign. He wants a sign that this is true. He wants a sign. So the Most High gives him a sign, and we're going to read it right now. And this sign was a sign in blood. Brothers and sisters, the sign in blood represents always what? Let me ask you, whenever you see a sign in blood, what does that represent? Talk to me now. When you see a sign in blood, what does it represent? Talk to me. When you see a sign, a covenant made in blood, that's right. What? That's right. That's right. When you see a covenant in blood, especially of a lamb or an animal, that's a covenant of righteousness in Messiah. That's in Messiah right there. Okay, that's in Messiah right there. Messiah representing the Father's truth and righteousness. That's right. And it will never be broken. If you can stop the sun from rising, you can stop the promises in Messiah from coming to pass. If you can stop the sun from setting, you can stop the promises of the Father from coming to pass. If you can stop the moon phases, if you can stop them, you can stop the Father's promises from coming to pass. But you can't. No man can. No God can. Notice again. Genesis chapter 15. I'm going to read from verse 8 down to verse 13. Genesis chapter 15 from verse 8 to verse 13. Notice what it says. Genesis chapter 15 from verse 8 to verse 13. And he said, Most High Yahweh, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto him, Take me an heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these, and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against the other, but the birds divided he not. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abram drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram. And lo, an horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. See, most people don't understand. They think that this United States that has afflicted the so-called Negro, the so-called African American for 400 years, they think that this is this prophecy. It is not. Let me explain to you. First off, we know that when the children of Israel came out of Egypt, the Bible says they came out after what? 430 years, right? So where does that extra 30 years come from, and why does that prophecy exactly fit this? Brother One Deep Israelite, look at his channel when you get a chance. He brought forth a video that explains it perfectly, and I give praise to the Most High Yah for that, brother. He's also seeking to be a servant of the Most High as he is, and I bear witness. But what happened, we noted that Abraham was 75 years old when he left Ur the Chaldees. Isn't that right? He was 75 years old when he left Ur the Chaldees. I'm not sure which scripture after the Bible study I'll be able to go, because I'm not sure. I say a lot of scriptures. I'm not sure which one they're asking about, and so we can ask that question after. As I was saying, so Abraham was 75 years old, Abraham, when he left Ur the Chaldees. Abraham was 100 years old when he had Isaac. Okay, Abraham was 100 years old when he had Isaac. That is 25 years that he was sojourning in the land of Canaan. You're following me so far? Abraham was 100 years old when he had Isaac, and so now he's 25 years in the land of Canaan. Isaac is weaned at age 5, according to Leviticus. Isaac is weaned at age 5. So you add that extra 5 years, and so you have 30 years right there. Okay, you have 30 years right there. 30 years between Abraham's entering into Canaan and the weaning of Isaac. And remember what he said, thy seed. So now he said, in Isaac shall thy seed be called. Even though he had Yishmael, he had him before. He said, in Isaac shall your seed be called. Okay. So now, in Isaac the seed is called. So the seed is now 5 years old. He's weaned. And now Abraham has been in the land of Canaan for 30 years. So from the 5 years old of Isaac going forward is 400 years. So that's why it says 430. It was 30 that Abraham sojourned in the land of Canaan, and it was 400 from the weaning of Isaac until the deliverance of the nation later. 400 years. They were not in Egypt for 400 years, but the whole process was 430 years, including 400 years for the seed to be in the land that is not theirs. Because it wasn't their land yet. Although the Most High declared it for them, they still sojourn in the land of promise. That means the land that was promised to them. It wasn't theirs yet because you still had Canaanites in the land. Everybody follow me? Testing 1, 2, 3. You still had Canaanites in the land. It was the land of promise. Okay, the United States of America, officially 1776, is not even 200 and not 300 years old yet. But we have been brought here as slaves from before 1600. The first slaves came here prior to. Many people look at 1619 when the slave ship came to Jamestown, Virginia, with slaves on it. 1619, and that's why they think this is the 400-year period. But no. Actually, they were making slaves of our brothers, the Indians, before that. The Caucasian man Columbus carried slaves back to Europe from here that he had taken before that. So there were slaves in this country that were Israelites before that, because we count the so-called American Indians, Taínos, as Israelites. They are the scattered of the northern tribes from many centuries before Judah was scattered. Okay? They came also and suffered the slavery. The Taíno Indians, the Mayan Indians, the different civilizations that they're finding in Central America and South America and Mexico, all the way up into this land. It's no coincidence they divided themselves by tribes and they dwelt in tents. That just didn't happen by accident. Okay? So this land, we've been in here now 1619. It's been 400 years from 1619 to now, but this is not the prophecy of Genesis. Although I will say that a lot of the things are being repeated because we are the true children of Israel, and we are also being awakened, and the Most High is sending messengers in the form of 144,000 to wake us up and to cause the people to hear the truth like he did Moses. Okay? But that's not the 400 years. The 400 years was with our fathers coming out of Mizraim. Okay. Also, Genesis chapter 15. Let's look at that again. Genesis 15 from verse 13. From verse 13 down to verse 16. Notice again, from verse 13 to verse 16. And he said unto Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Also, that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward they shall come out with great substance, and thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, and thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And that's why when we read Leviticus chapter 18, he said, the land is vomiting them out because of all the abominations they committed on it. And he told our fathers, don't commit the abominations that the men of this land committed, because they'll vomit you out as well. Okay? And the Most High made this promise. He came between the animals. Notice from verse 17 to verse 21 of Genesis 15, from verse 17 to verse 21. Notice what it says. And it came to pass that when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp passed between those pieces. And in the same day Yahweh made a covenant with Abraham, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Mizraim unto the great river, the river Euphrates, and the Canaanites, and the Kenizzites, and the Cadmonites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Rephaim, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. So he's given all the land with all of those nations on it. And he told them that. Now those nations still dwelled in that land with Abraham. Abraham was like a guest to them. Even though Most High promised him that land, it was the land of promise. Y'all understand? And so for 400 years, they dwelt in the land of promise among people that weren't theirs. And yes, they got afflicted by the people of the land. And as you read about Abraham having to go from place to place and being scared for his life, telling people Sarah his sister so he don't get killed, things like that. And then the Most High still protecting him and blessing him. Okay. And then, of course, we know what happened in Egypt with the affliction of our fathers in Mizraim. So we can see here that righteousness was given to Abraham as a result of Abraham trusting in the Creator, trusting his word, that his word would come to pass. Okay, now we are prepared to go to Romans chapter 4. Let's go over to Romans chapter 4. And let's begin looking at Romans chapter 4. So now we understand that Abraham has a seed in the flesh, but now in Romans 4, the argument is being presented that the Gentiles can also receive justification because though they're not circumcised. Because remember now, the Most High gave Abraham a sign of his seed. The sign of Abraham's seed in the flesh was that they would be circumcised, that the men would be circumcised. That circumcision represented a sign in the flesh that they belonged to the only true God. But now the apostle is making the argument that the real circumcision is in the heart, which the Father also made several times in the scriptures in the Old Testament, that the heart needs to be circumcised. The heart needs to be given over to him so that the spirit of justification by righteousness needs to be made manifest. And so he's using now in Romans, this epistle, he's using this epistle to let the people know that he can circumcise the heart by justification by righteousness, which means this is the true way that you're going to show forth you're his people, by the Spirit dwelling in you, not by the cutting of your flesh. Now, this doesn't do away with the cutting of the flesh. As we saw also in the book of Acts chapter 16, we saw this doesn't do away, but it does represent the fact that the Gentiles who may not need to be circumcised because they're not the seed of Abraham, they don't need to be circumcised, but they can still receive justification by righteousness. And as Israelite people, our function on this planet is to show forth to the heathen the true God and the power of justification by righteousness. It becomes the most important doctrine in the Bible for the seed. You see, there's two things that need to be plugged in together for this whole situation in terms of the kingdom to be made manifest. There needs to be the seed of Abraham, and they need to be plugged into justification by righteousness. They need to be plugged into it so that they can become examples to the heathen of the truth. Because all the gods of the nations are idols. Yahweh made the heavens. Okay? There's no white Jesus. There's no Pope that can save you. There's no Prophet Muhammad that got anything from anybody called Allah that the Most High is recognizing. There's no Judaism with its Kabbalah and its Talmud that the Most High recognizes. None of these people belong to him as the chosen seed. But all of them can be saved through the chosen seed. Okay, there is a chosen seed. And here we are in the last days, and he's going to make manifest that connection between the chosen seed and justification by righteousness. Okay? Romans chapter 4 from verse 1. We read Romans chapter 4 from verse 1. And we're going to be looking at James. I want to definitely bring up James in this as well. Romans 4 from verse 1 down to verse 5. Notice what it says. Romans 4 from 1 to 5. What shall we say then that Abraham our father as pertaining to the flesh hath found? For if Abraham were justified by works, he hath whereof to glory, but not before Yahweh. What saith the scripture? Abraham believed Yahweh, and it was counted unto him for righteousness. Now to him that worketh is the reward not reckoned of grace, but of debt. But to him that worketh not, but believeth on him that justifieth the ungodly, his faith is counted for righteousness. Now I want to stop here for a minute. So again, I want to stress, the Bible is showing us here that you cannot be justified or declared innocent by anything that you do. You cannot perform the works of the Creator in your own strength. You need the Spirit of the Father's righteousness to perform his works. Now, let me bring you some confusion that, according to Christianity, might be confused to them because they're not supposed to bring forth this truth. This truth is supposed to be brought forth by the Israelite nation. But let's compare what we just read to James chapter 2. James chapter 2. James chapter 2. I'm going to read James chapter 2 from verse 14. From verse 14 down to verse 24. Okay, James chapter 2, also from 14 to 24. James chapter 2, from 14 to 24. And excuse me if we go a little over in our time in the first part today. We're going to have a second part, of course, but we're just going to stop here in a little bit. But James chapter 2, from verse 14 to verse 24. Notice what it says. What doth it profit, my brethren, though a man say he hath faith and have not works? Can faith save him? If a brother or a sister be naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you say unto them, Depart in peace, be ye warmed and filled, notwithstanding ye give them not those things which are needful to the body, what doth it profit? Even so faith, if it hath not works, is dead, being alone. Yea, a man may say, Thou hast faith, and I have works. Show me thy faith without thy works, and I will show thee my faith by my works. Thou believest that there is one most high, thou doest well. The devils also believe and tremble. But wilt thou know, O vain man, that faith without works is dead? Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he had offered Isaac his son upon the altar? Seeing thou how faith wrought with his works, and by works was faith made perfect? The scripture was fulfilled which saith, Abraham believed Yahweh, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness, and he was called the friend of Yahweh. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can y'all hear me there? Did y'all hear those scriptures? I didn't see them posted. Did you hear them? Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. So it appears from these two scriptures that they contradict each other. It appears you have James chapter 2 saying Abraham was justified by his works, and then you have Paul here in Romans chapter 4 saying you can't be justified by works. It appears, I say, not that it's true, but it appears that these contradict each other. Now, if you ask Christians, they won't be able to explain to you. But let's explain. Notice James mentioned the offering of his son Isaac upon the altar as justifying his faith. Notice Paul is talking about, and right, a brother and sister also destitute of food. Notice Paul is talking about being justified and receiving righteousness in the spirit by circumcision. So what is going on here? The first step, obviously, is Abraham receiving righteousness. The outgrowth of that righteousness is Abraham trusting enough to offer his son. Does that make sense? So the receiving of the spirit of righteousness is a prelude to obedience. Okay? The receiving of the spirit of righteousness is a prelude to works of obedience. That is why when somebody declares, I have received the spirit, but yet all they're doing is foaming at the mouth, babbling in an unknown tongue and jumping up and down, they might have received a spirit, but it's not the set apart spirit of the Father. It was James chapter 2 from verse 14 to 24, Isha. Yeah, I figured so. It was James chapter 2 from verse 14 to 24. James 2, 14 to 24. Matter of fact, as you're posting it, we'll read it again. Yeah, please. James chapter 2 from verse 14 to 24.